You hear that? It's jazz, deep relaxation. Let's listen to this. Okay, I'm here now then. So I'll leave it on in the background and you can hear me. I apologise if the volume was a little bit low in one of my videos that I put in earlier. And I was explaining the overall package of that word mental health. The word mental health is just a label, right? It actually doesn't define what someone is going through or has gone through. And overcoming those traumas and the triggers. Some people expect miracles, I tell you, and they expect that just because you may be talking positivity, look, I'm going to get my words out, positive, there we go, let's stay positive, because you may be speaking positive, you know, it's a little bit hard for people to recognize that you've had a little bit of change. So people sometimes in your environment still think you are where you were years ago, and so you may be tarnished with the same brush if you've experienced, I don't know, being pushed out of the circle, or being picked on, or being ridiculed for being the same person or the same problems or something. I read something earlier which made me want to address the old saying. I think that we have learned from different avenues and different support systems, we have learned to, people put ideas on the table, and most of those ideas are old remedies. Some of those old remedies and them old myths about getting better. It's okay, think positively and you'll change. And if you do this and you do that, you'll get better. That's just throwing words out there. The work has to be done when you're totally broken and you've had nothing. You've reached the end of the barrel, at the end of the barrel, that too. But when you have broken, when you've been broken, climbing back up, step by step, is a very tall order. And eventually, sometimes we climb those steps one after the other. We get to this one, something will come as a barrier where you're hesitant to take the next step, because this step here seems the same as everybody else around you, giving you the same information. But in actual, rather than helping you up the step, they've actually ridiculed you. So people can ridicule you in so many ways, which prevents you from taking the next step. Tarnished with the same brush, tarnished with the same behavior. Self-esteem. One of the things when you're working with people who are victims of domestic violence, what I realized is they don't get their voices heard in the right capacity, and look at the overall situation of how they got in that situation, where it's come from, low self-esteem, and actually, in fact, just who's taking you to the doctor? Is it the perpetrators? That's a very common factor, okay, and one that I want to make very clear. Sometimes we can become so ill, so damaged, and I mean damaged with the trauma that's actually thrown at you left day in, day out, if you're in unhealthy situations. But those that are causing that unhealthy situations may recommend that you go to the doctors and you go to the GP and you go and get some medication. After all, you need it. You need to be calmer, etc. Again, the blame game, without understanding what it really is. And sometimes when you're in the clutch of a perpetrator, the person that is abusing you may not even recognize that you're in abusive situation. But if your perpetrator is sort of saying, go to the doctor, let's reflect on that. Why are you actually going to the doctor? So you're going to the doctor because you're depressed, but what's causing the depression? And that's where, rather than just look at the past, let's look at what your current immediate situation is, where we can help you go forward. That's what I do. That's what we do. Well, that's what I do. I work with a lot of people that have got some trauma. They're just, the love languages of understanding amongst their family is just not there. And some people are just accustomed not to talk about mental health. It's almost a shame. It's stigma. But what are the things that I want to understand, or let you understand, is this big label of emotionally unstable personality disorder seems to be quite popular. this label of bipolar and borderline personality disorder. Bipolar is another word for manic. Okay, so all of these disorders and disabilities, they come from somewhere. Your label, where did it come from? How did you get it? So when you're talking to a psychologist, you compile and put everything on top, give them a story, paint the story, and it's very clear, isn't it? That's, most of these people out there have been damaged and traumatized. How do you come back from trauma? It's not easy when you're traumatized, maybe on a daily basis, with somebody that you've encountered, or something didn't go right, or you're up against something within the system. I've had people wanting to kill themselves over a debt, over bailiffs, and they may not even owe the debt. See, if people don't understand their rights, then life would be taken. Thank God for lifelines to somebody who's educated and understand what it is to know your rights. So that's what basically we do to make sure that you've got your rights. You've got the help, you've got the right support, you've got the right guidance, you've got the right package to help you up. When we use the word rehabilitation, and I said this earlier, into an appointment that I had, we use the word rehabilitation. That means if we're going to rehabilitate from somebody that has had a life of been surrounded in their surroundings, it's not particularly been great role models. So therefore, sometimes when somebody's having a relapse, the police are involved, and sometimes when the police are involved, it could be for welfare check, or then again, it could be because you may need to appear in court for something that you've done and that you've affected somebody as well. And again, I think victims get a bum deal. And I really want to say that personality disorder, the EUPD or BPD, also known as, has a really bad dismissive reputation. The reputation for that disorder is that people don't understand it. They don't even understand the label that they've been given halfway through. When people come to me again, they say to me straight away, they'll reel off, I've got EUPD, or I've got BPD, or I've got borderline personality disorder. It's almost like saying to someone, hi, I'm gay. It's the same thing, the same rhetoric. So wouldn't it be more beneficial when you meet someone and say, you know what, my name is, I'll give you a prime example. Hi, my name is Kerry. Right now, I'm struggling with a few issues right now. And this is the current issue that I'd like help with, because I think we're tarnished too much on saying, hi, I've got mental health, but this is my issue. Because what's happening here is that the system and the people around you are judging you straight away for that word, mental health. It's a deterrent. It's something that's not really understood, and the stigma behind it needs to be broken, because it's putting people off, and they feel that they're not qualified. Look at the words, qualified to deal with mental health. Sorry, you're qualified to listen to somebody and see where you can help them build their self-esteem or help in an avenue. Sometimes, instead of going to the citizens' advice, you are the advice. Your friends and your family are the advice within their own neighborhoods and within their own homes. And information is there at your fingertips, but some people may not have been able to read, write, or understand the structure of what is asked in questions. I've had difficulty with certain forms and paperwork before, I'll admit it, but you know, what do? Sit there, bypass it, get het up, the anxiety creeps in, and we just, one pile on top of another. Anxious, on edge, task uncompleted. Task setting is very, very important. Very, very important for stability, and particularly with these diagnoses, that I know that you need stability. I know that you need structure, routine, and no, change nobody likes change. If it's change for the better, it's good. But some people like to be comfortable. But sometimes you have to go out your comfort zone in order to change. One of the things that you have to change, particularly some people don't drink, some people may have another coping strategies. When I'm speaking to people that are in recovery from alcohol, It's nothing worse than somebody that may still be drinking or may not be. Teaching other people the one day at a time method and a conversation that they want to project how healing should happen. So I want to read this out, and I do believe everybody has their own steps to take and own measures to take, but sometimes if you're not quite there yet, take it from someone who knows that what it takes to get there. And let's not make the excuses when it comes around alcohol. When it comes around alcohol, it is not just you who is touching the alcohol that it has an effect on. It affects everybody around your circle, for your character changes. And when your character changes, then you become a little bit of a fear factor yourself, because especially if you could become aggressive on alcohol or do stupid stuff on alcohol. We know alcohol is used as a coping strategy. We also know that alcohol is used as Dutch courage before going out sometimes. It's a mask. It's a big mask. But what I want to read out here is, it says, everybody has their own opinion on drugs and alcohol and addictions. But until you've been there, your opinion remains insignificant. Yes, they choose abuse and drugs or alcohol, thinking they would be the one that would be able to control it. You don't control drugs or alcohol, it controls you. There are some lucky ones who have beat it, but don't think because they are still alive that life is great. They fight every day to stay clean and sober. It's a constant battle from the time they open their eyes until they close, and it never goes away. Most are good people who made bad choices. Battling a drug and alcohol addiction is a beast for the person addicted and the ones who love them. So in loving memory of every family member and friends who has lost the battle with drugs and alcohol, and to those who continue to conquer it, put this on your Facebook status. Okay, so within that status, I disagree with it's in control of you. You're in control. Sorry, I will point blank say that. If I don't go to the shop, then I can't do it, can I? So the choice that I make initially first off is go and get the alcohol. That's a bad, poor choice. But the decision it took to go to the shop is a choice. So therefore, I do believe that you can be in control of the choices that you make. But what you really need to recognize is what's triggering you to drink. What upset you for the day? What is it that you're feeling? What is the emotion? So it's identifying the triggers before the traumas. No, that did not come out wrong, is it? Well, bit of both, isn't it? At the end of the day, identify the triggers, to reduce the traumas. So for myself, people look at people and say, oh, you're a recovering alcoholic. Even if you're as a binge drinker and you used to do it on the weekend or before you had the Dutch courage, before you went out, and that's how you master through maybe you want to socialize with somebody, but you're going to have that drink first before you socialize with them. The Dutch courage. I know, just have it, it'll numb on my nerves, but it's what comes with it, and it can come with alcohol, not to mention the damage you're doing to your liver and your kidneys and gallbladder and all of those things, that comes with it. But we know that alcohol is just a ripple effect to everything else. So it's best avoided. But these 12 steps that people take into recovery, and then they say one day at a time. Yes, we all have one day at a time. We only have today because tomorrow's not promised. So during this day, you make a healthy decision on what you're going to do and how you're going to go forward. Too many things happen around alcohol, and that's where the abuse started as children. A lot of abuse and domestic violence starts as well. So it's just one pattern after another after another. if we're going to break the cycle here, we're going to have to be absolutely honest and ruthful with our healing process. And that is, what is it that's causing the issue? Does it really matter anymore? Can you change it? Can you move forward? And I think everybody that's at a stale spot and then maybe using things as a crutch needs to address a situation and how to move forward. I tend not to like to go all the way back because it's pointless exercise. The words are, yes, it happened. Yes, that was traumatic. Yes, I built up unhealthy coping strategies. Yes, I become stigmatized. I become ridiculed. I became known as, oh, she's the one that's crazy. She's the one that brings trouble. She's the one that's got mental health. What I didn't become, what wasn't recognized, and what happens within the community is that they're not recognized that they are victims of abuse. And that abuse can go on to be manipulated through your friends and family quite frequently, actually. And some people just don't know how to say no. They just do things for a peaceful life. And deep down, they're really, really unhappy. How do we change it? Keeping still when you're full of ideas is hard. I think a lot of people are bored. They don't know what to do with their time. They don't know what to do with their life. They don't even know what direction they want to go, but they know they want to do something. They know they've got some kind of purpose, but they want to be going somewhere where they're appreciated. Change of whatever you've known for all of your life. Do you know what? I think the hardest part for me is when I had to relocate in a destination unknown to me and then integrate in a community that I don't know, that don't know me. So I'm already intimidated, and then people are intimidated by me because I'm different. When you go to another town and you're a stranger, or you go to a place where everybody knows everyone and suddenly the newcomer comes in, and then you're going to be looked at or judged in somewhere along the line. So the paranoia creeps in too. So hence why a lot of people self-isolate, so they don't get ridiculed, so they don't get talked about, so they don't get gossiped about. You know, so there's not a bad impression left on people when people are out there to say, oh yeah, I've heard of her. Yeah, she's a, do you know the names that I used to be called? She's a slut. She's a hoe. Yeah, she ain't worth nothing. Yeah, I'd stay away from her if I was you. The names that I've been called, the things that go on pretty much week after week after week, because people don't like change. People don't like to see somebody grow. They're uncomfortable with it. And I actually watched something earlier, which was, I thought, this is my line of talking. This is my line of thinking. People don't like change. You may want to change, but your friends and your family around you, they didn't want to change, did they? They don't want to see the change. Doesn't mean they don't want the best for you, but they're not comfortable with the change or what you're doing either. It's uncomfortable. You're changing character. And I hope sometimes that those that are changing character, it's for the better. But when you change character from what you've known, so you're not that scary little child anymore, you've matured and you're trying to do things differently, I think people should give you the benefit of the doubt and help you up and not tarnish you for the things that you did last year or the year before or in 10 years ago or 20 years ago, because each day when you grow through the traumas and change the direction and start self-discovery where you're getting your self-esteem back, then you've got to come away from what was 2 years ago when you was in that mental state, when you didn't even know yourself. Why should you be stigmatized for something 2 years ago when you're progressing forward with the everyday challenge of survival? Simple, isn't it? People may not like me. People may not like a lot of people out. I'm going to talk from my own experience. People may not like me, but I'll say that those that don't like me, they haven't really had a cup of tea with me or gotten to know me. But what's my attitude to this now? I really don't care. You know why I really don't care? Who likes me? Who doesn't like me anymore? I used to worry about that my whole entire life, pleasing other people. I'm fed up of pleasing people now. I please me. So I really don't care who likes me. Deep down, I care a bit. But that's the emotional grieving process of rejection. Nobody likes to be rejected, you see. So the grieving process of rejection is a hard one that many people find it very extremely difficult to manage. How to deal with the rejection without mutilation, without abusing your body or abusing somebody else or something like that. How do you handle the rejection without seeking the revenge back, or how am I going to get them back because this doesn't feel good? I need to let them know how they made me feel. The only way you can let somebody know how you made you feel is to claim your own feelings and say, you know what, I was uncomfortable when this occurred, and this is a solution of way how we could properly best communicate. What do you think about that? That's an interaction. Okay, rather than just say, there's another thing as well, you know, when you're in a relationship, sometimes something may happen and it may be a trigger. So one of the things, if you're in a partnership and you're triggered by an event, and that's not your current partner or friend, but the trigger is there, I think it's best explained to the person that's in your presence is that, I know when you've done that, it was a little bit uncomfortable. I know you're not accustomed to why I would be feeling this emotion, but when I really think about where the emotion's coming from, it's coming from something in my past which felt uncomfortable. Can we change it? Or maybe it is really happening. Maybe that person is projecting something that you've been there before, and that may be because you've got low self-esteem. You've got low self-esteem and you're putting up with crap. Then at the end of the day, you've got to find that voice within in a constructive manner and not to take it out on yourself. I've had a few positive days, a few positive weeks. You know, generally someone will say to me, anytime you're doing positive, then sometimes negative can come. But I'm not going to project that out there. I'm saying positive is positive. You'll be pleased to know that earlier I put an announcement out that one of our mum members, Michelle Patmore, was in hospital with pneumonia. Hopefully she may be back home tomorrow in recovery. So that's good. To make sure she's been sent all your warm wishes and dedication of thanks. Yeah. So, you know, thinking of others and their families in their times of need is important. The people we help gives me great pleasure to be able to help them. I'll give you a classic example. If someone comes through the door and they've got not just one issue, but more than one issue, say children, housing, social services, family, all of those things put into one package, then it all needs to be, you know, to make sure that that person's being supported, because it's a lot of hands on into one situation. And when things are thrown at individuals and their victims or something, or allegations are made, you'll find that when the allegations are made on a particular person, that person's alone defending themselves, and they don't have any support, mental support, or, you know, somebody to help them with the advocacy side of things. They just don't know. Let's have a look. Who's that? So they just don't know what way to go. So let's have a look. We've got, yes, you know what they call me? Tornado. That's my nickname, Tornado. I get the job done, I suppose. They can see me coming and I get the job done. So I know who this statement is. So I'm going to say, just by, you see, when you learn the languages of people and you understand who uses certain lingos, wordings on you, and so I can recognize who this person is, because when I'm looking at what I'm looking at now, it doesn't have a name, but it says Facebook user, as you can clearly see. This is young Dave. He is a survivor. He's written many stories on here to know his journey, and that is coming out, finding his voice to go forward and freeing from the past trauma. So I think it's liberating when someone can finally speak and say, you know what? Yeah, it happened to me too. And now I want to go forward. I want to replace all the harmful contents of the things that I was doing, but I want to go forward. How do I do that? Who's going to give me the right support? But is the right person going to stay there? Because that's the thing, isn't it? People don't stay very long. So when you find your true support network, hold on to them and appreciate them, because their story isn't much different to yours. And the aim is the same: happiness and rebuilding lives. Right, very true statement. Put over in an honest, non-patronizing way as ever. Thank you. That's a secret. No sympathy. That makes people weak and more reliant on meds. The hard truth gets the mindset more open and survive. You're absolutely right, you know, because when I ask people, I get ridiculed because my approach is, they'll see it as, some people will say, oh, she's a bit aggressive, isn't she? And then I have to change the words. Please don't say that I'm aggressive. Please say I'm compassionate with what I'm doing, and what I'm trying to do is save life. So if I say something, it isn't against somebody. It's probably what I'm feeling is a sense of compassion for the situation that somebody is in or found themselves in. And I find most systems, and I'm going to say that some people in a position of power patronize vulnerable people. They make them out to be monsters. They make them out to be, you know, oh, it's because of their mental health. Or do you know one of the things that when you read, it says, oh, this, and I'm going to give you a prime example because I've got it on my own files. Kerry has emotionally unstable personality disorder and finds it difficult to regulate her emotions. And when they're writing this about you, it makes you sound like a fool. I don't know what, it makes you sound something. It makes you sound really, you know, okay, yeah, that's a true statement. But then they say, they can twist it. Yeah, this is the reason because of her behavior. And they twist the truth. And the truth is, Kerry found it hard to regulate her emotions, just like most other people in the community find it difficult to regulate their emotions because they're a victim of bloody crime, or they're a victim of the system messing them about as well, shutting doors in people's faces and not giving them the right help and not even giving them the right, you know, everything is a tick box nowadays. Before you can even hold a conversation. Hi, go now, self-refer to the web, or go and self-refer, or fill this form out and fill that form out. When it's a crisis and somebody's desperate, did you even ask them if they can read before you direct them? Do you actually say, before I direct you, can you read? Can you write? Can you understand? Actually, this is what I can do, and I'll read it out for you before you go and sign up or do whatever. Because when people are in a desperate place, they'll sign anything, but that's the problem. They don't read what they're signing to. When it comes to your data and the things that you're signing to, your data, then you tick a box about third parties, etc. That means that means basically that they will share your information when it comes to your welfare to any department that represents life. Social services, council, mental health services. You have three basic situations right there. And if you have three basic situations right there, one will affect the other, and so on. If you've only got a domestic violence and there's children there, then you've got social services involved. And believe me, you don't really want them involved in your life if they're not on your side. The idea, though, is to not ever have them involved in your life and stay the hell out of the domestic violence. So let's find about way of building up self-esteem. And also, when it comes to the perpetrators of domestic violence, I highly feel that they need rehabilitation, and it must be a must. Anybody that's put their hands on someone before, you know, and it happens to men and it happens to women, they do need rehabilitation, for that pattern and that learned behavior came from somewhere. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's physical. It could be mental. And that's the thing. The way of the world is mental and physical abuse. How do we stop it? So how do we reduce it? Reducing the crime, reducing the fatality. And before you get to the crime, anyone that commits harm on another person has an issue with their anger. Anyone. And that includes your regular households without any labels of disabilities. Anger is anger. If you did never go to the doctors, right, then you would never be diagnosed, but yet you may have lived the same trauma and the same experiences, and you may have just got away with without a diagnosis. However, having a diagnosis, people seem to say, oh, at least I can understand it now. And some people are just undiagnosed because they didn't know how to tell someone. So they're still living with secrets. The thing is, now that you are diagnosed and they've put it all into perspective, well, you've got this diagnosis. When you think about it, the diagnosis is a combination of a lot of stuff that represents trauma. So overcoming trauma is key. And you may say that most of those diagnoses also have the added label. Another one representing trauma is post-traumatic stress disorder. So all those labels, BPD, EUPD, PTSD, bipolar, schizophrenia, they all come, not so much as schizophrenia, but they've come from trauma. And so at the end of the day, when that's identified, that, you can overcome trauma, but you need the tools to good health and well-being. And drugs and alcohol is not the way forward, not at all. So, I'm not saying, when people say drugs and alcohol, if people are smoking weed, do I condone weed? To be honest, at the end of the day, if they tell you that these diagnoses don't have no cure, and I've known many people to sit there and smoke cannabis or have CBT oil or CBT things that you can get on prescription and you can get from the pharmacy. These natural products now, at the end of the day, seem to be beneficial for some people. And I'm saying that I've seen people take cannabis or CBT oil, should I say, for Parkinson's and things like that. And I've seen them stop shaking. I've seen a lot of people, they will take that and be calm. And I suppose it's, for me, if somebody's smoking that, then as long as they're doing something constructive with their life and not committing crime and not bothering anyone and not causing any harm, then that's for them for what they do in their own yard, isn't it? As long as they're not harassing or bugging anybody else. The bush doctors, how can I go on the bush doctors? The bush doctors and herbal remedies, natural products, and not heroin, not cocaine, none of those stuff are good for you. None of them are good for you. That you're not in control. Steer clear. Them hard drugs, class A's. I'll tell you what, it's very rare. Very rare. If you want to do your studies on who takes those and who doesn't, look at the crime rate with class A drugs. How high is that? Class A drugs, the most destructive drugs ever, the killers. I don't know anyone. Listen, all I can say, look, my mother and my father, they smoked cannabis. I was brought up around that. That was a culture thing that went on and on and on throughout. And my mum and dad never smoked cannabis. I think when they failed is when they brought in the hard drugs. Yeah, that's when it caused arguments and the alcohol. But when they were just smoking cannabis, they were funny, they were laughing, there was that peace. And my mum, who was a manic, depressive and self-harmer, was calm and was a beacon of light to many people in the community and would help anyone. But I think when they went wrong earlier during my childhood, what affected us was the other drugs that come with it. Because what came with those drugs, what came with the alcohol was a life of crime. So, having put those down and knowing what I know now, that's why I teach people, come on, man, put down the drugs and alcohol. Because in a sense, those things are detrimental on not just yourself, but the people and your loved ones around you who are watching you deteriorate or watching you not progress. So if you can progress and you're motivated and you're not sitting in pity party and you're doing something constructive with your life, then fair point. But if you are weakened by the alcohol, by the drugs, and you have no motivation and you're not doing anything for yourself to change your circumstances, then you're just going to be spiraling and spiral around in circles. Change your habits. Change the direction that you're going. For crying out loud, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you, and your friends and family only want the best for you. And you might say, oh no, not my friends, not my family, they don't understand. Sometimes you will be avoided if the pattern still consists. Let's change the patterns. And I'm only going to talk from my perspective, that we know that your mental health can come crushing down if the right love languages and the right support is not available. So I've had enough of talking today now. I like what I do. People think to me, oh, you're healed because you run a company, or because you're doing the Mom Project, you're healed. No, I have to live with this daily, getting up daily to, can I get dressed today? Did you get a wash today? Have you even cleaned your teeth today? People say you got nice teeth, but it's not every day I clean them. It's prompting, isn't it? But sometimes I can get an I don't care attitude. Sometimes it depends who's affecting me for the day. So trying to be a role model is pretty tough, because everybody expects you to be a good girl and this good life. Believe me, this good life, it's the most hardest life without goggles on, you know. It's quite hard, because when people are mean to me, I want to revert backwards. That's just an instant thought, though. Back to, do you know what? I could show them something, you know. I could tell them about themselves. But because I'm in a role model, I've got to do it in a different way. I'm supposed to say, you know what? Can you not treat me like that, please? No. I will never change my approach or who I am. There are plenty of services out there, right? Plenty. Now, there was old services before you ever had mine. There was different old methods before you had mine. And my service, it's not for everyone, is it? It's for those that are willing and want to change, willing to identify, willing to give back to the community. So I guess my service isn't for everyone, but the door's open for everybody. So I'm just rueful with it, in a sense where, come on, darling, you know, let's just, you know, it takes one to know one. I understand what you're doing now. So it's funny that 3 people said to me over the weekend, can I read them? You can read, can't you? You can do readings. And I said, no, I'm getting told that quite frequently. It's almost like I can hear their story before they even open their mouth. Like I know their background before they even open their mouth. And I bond with people like that, because it's almost like it's a trust, an instant trust, because you know what they've kind of gone through, because it's very much similar to yourself without even knowing the words. But it's almost like a kind of trust where, okay, you know what, you're going to understand me, you're going to get me, so I don't really need to go into big detail at all. So takes one to know one. I just don't just sit here and do nothing. That's the difference between me and every other organisation that I know of. You've got organisations that help, yes, thank you. But you've got organisations that help and really do push out. Not only do I just sit there and chat, I am hands-on doing what I can to benefit many. Just give them time. And somebody said to me earlier, they wrote to me earlier, a little brief detail, because they said they wanted to thank me personally for the products that they purchased for suicide prevention. So even if somebody wanted to make a donation, they can make a donation. If they didn't want to make a donation, and they said, you know what, rather than make that donation, I'll purchase your product off you. So that we had t-shirts, face masks, and a hat. The hat said mind over matter. And even I don't have one of those yet. Doesn't mean I haven't made a donation. You know, I bought other products like t-shirts and stuff, but it doesn't mean that I'm not donating back to my own cause, suicide prevention, you know, and spreading the awareness in the shape of those messages. So I give thanks to the people that have given donations and bought products and given back and spreading awareness and sharing the information. And thank you for your stories and your encouragement and for everything that you've ever done. If you've crossed my path, then I thank you for the time stopped to give back, the time that you've given myself as well. Even if you're on this platform, the Mom platform, thank you for jumping on the platform. Thank you for being there. Not quite hearing too many people. And the other thing, one last thing before I go, and I have mentioned, I always say the color of your skin doesn't define you, it doesn't define me anyway, but I get the concept of what discrimination feels like. One of the things that I am aware of on my project is that you are finding more and more people of maybe my color or a bit of different color. I'm not going to put a label on anything here, okay? Speaking more out and showing what they're doing, whether it's in products, whether it's in fitness, whether it's in mental health, whether it's in whatever. You're finding that the people that are jumping on the Mom project, they're putting out their products and the things that they're doing with their life. So they're changing their life and now they're promoting their business. So the fact that they've gone from mental health to business owner, I will allow them to promote and spread the awareness of just what it takes to get up from mental health, to then come and own your own business and push out and push out and push out. So allow them people. So if you're seeing people of a different ethnicity towards you, then perhaps wake up and stop making us do all the hard work as well. Come and join us and be diverse and bringing in a community. Let's just do this together. So I don't know, that will be it's different when you see, even I notice. I always say to, apart from old young Dave and Michelle Patmore, and I'm going to say Andy Patmore, very few people of my mother's race, colour, should I say, talk live. Why is that? We've all got the similar journeys, and we're all trying to raise awareness. So I would, hope people not to be too intimidated, because we're all doing the same aim. But I am aware that change can be intimidating, but change is good. So I'm just aware. I just want more people to talk openly and honest. Doesn't matter the color, creed, or where you're from. Is to talk, spread more awareness, help other people. Because what I'm seeing is that, well, you'll be able to see for yourself. You can see who is giving back. Very few. Very few. And is it a coincidence that I hate saying the label, so I'm not actually going to say it. Is it a coincidence that our stories of survival are very much of a very traumatic journey? But nevertheless, if mental health is just a word, that's what they're trying to teach. And I'm saying it is just a word, but we need to know the underlying issues. Then I will say, in comparison, that there are people that have gone through very similar journeys, and that trauma didn't give a toss what color you are when it comes to perpetrators. So overcoming trauma and changing the outcome to your life, changing from wherever you've come from. Me, I was dragged up. One thing that wasn't really there completely was stability. And I think as you get older, that's what we aim for: stability, structure, stability, and knowing our place in the world, having a place in the world. Going to leave you with a bit of jazz. And don't be discouraged, because tomorrow you get another chance. If you can get through today, tomorrow you can do things differently. But make sure you task set and plan. And if you're rubbish at keeping the memory stored, write it down somewhere and pin it up for what you've got to do and what your aim is. I've got nothing else to say. I do a lot of talking. It's about time other people do more talking, if they choose. Shut up. It's not working, is it? It's not reggae though, is it? You wouldn't have thought that I would listen to this, would you? I have to go now. This is called Stand By Me, Calming, Relaxing Jazz Guitar Academy. I have to go now. I have to go and speak to somebody who's been on the naughty step. See if they're allowed to come off. Bye-bye.